it, as in the it doesn't represent or substitute anything. It's acting just as a grammatical function as opposed to content, and so it can make your work seem more wordy. It's great if you're under the word count and you need to use it to buff up your words, use it. But most of the time, for like clarity and precision, I prefer to avoid it. So I want to make that clear because I have an example in which I use it, but it sounds really snobby. And so probably appropriately doesn't quite work. I don't like the unidentified it's. So sentences that start with like, it is important, I seriously dislike that particular phrase personally, because it implies that everything else you've written isn't important. So just a pet peeve, but I thought I'd mention it. Mostly because it's a clarity thing, but you can get away with it sometimes in academic bundles. I know some other academics in faculty, particularly CI in communication and editing, they also dislike the unidentified it. So our first activity for today is we have a picture.
All right, everyone.
So what I'd like you to do is come up with a sentence that uses one of these bundles.
Celeste will be back
now,
with
there's
you
obviously
next week.
millions of academic
So
bundles,
I do apologise for
so I have
today,
selected just 3 for you to work with.
So I won't see most of you for the rest of the semester, but I will see some of you in your next semester. If you're doing QCD 103 Strategic Speech Communication, if you're doing Creative Industries Diploma. So I will see you again if that's the case. All right, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it. Have a lovely week.
I like it, Christina. I feel very much the same way. And also, if you look at the people at the front, particularly like the person with the glasses, I don't know if they're still conscious or not. Just close your eyes and hang on. Great work, everyone. So I have a couple of examples as well. Here's one. And I've used a slightly different version of the same bundle. So rather than is due to, I just have due to. But I've also added it seems as though, which is another bundle. And it's using that it that I dislike so much. Oops. What I'll do is that. I also have the fact that. And one more. I also went for a similar thing for in order to, but mine's a bit more grim, I think. So we're very much getting the hang of the bundles, I hope. The bundles are very useful, particularly when it comes to things like your justification and your critical thinking elements, because they add that kind of glue between the evidence or the information from the text and your own thinking. Great. So I have, I think it's the next slide. Yes. A Padlet that I have created for us. Now let me just jump over. There we go. So the first activity is what we're going to focus on for right now, and then we'll move on to the other idea that I also want to talk about. So what I'd like you to do is come up with a sentence or more, if you like, using bundles. So I have a couple more different bundles this time. So in contrast to, so obviously when you are contrasting ideas, it is important to, which, you know, I hate, but still relevant, the use of, rather than just saying using. Now you'll notice bundles tend to be quite wordy, which is why it's great if you are low on word counts in your assignments. Using bundles to make those connections clearer and signposting connections, one, ups your word count, but two, it makes it more cohesive. So here are a few examples. I'll just move that I came up with. So in contrast, two commonly held myths, toxicity in gaming is not just part of playing, which is why gaming companies are attempting to combat toxicity with a number of strategies. And another one, I tried using all three connectors at once. So it is important to remember that, in contrast to what some students believe, the use of translators in second language learning is detrimental rather than helpful for one's language acquisition. Now, in a kind of natural way, I would probably use despite here instead of in contrast to, mostly because I feel like in this context, it's a bit wordy, but the two mean the same thing, and so you can get away with it. And plus, I wanted to show how you could use technically all three in one sentence. Whoever this is, I agree with you. Oh no, Christina. Actually, that reminds me. We might not have Blackboard for a while. I think starting next year we have something new, which means I have to copy all of my unit stuff. So those of you still writing, please continue to do so. I'm just going to also introduce the next point. So those of you, excuse me, who are done can do the next activity. So the next point is the learning feature 8, which is using the word this, which probably doesn't seem like a big deal, but ironically, this is probably one of the most underrated academic terms. It's used in academic writing a lot, and what it does is it creates cohesion. So it stops you from repeating yourself unnecessarily, plus it tells you how to link all the ideas together. It's particularly useful after introducing evidence or examples in the next sentence where you explain it. It's also useful when you want to clarify your assertion or introduce your justification. So the more critical thinking you have in your writing, the more likely you're going to be using this as part of that writing. So I have an example from a paragraph here. So international students have reported feelings of isolation, powerlessness, and a general sense of not belonging and a sense of unfriendliness by domestic students, as well as direct and indirect forms of discrimination, both on campus and off campus. It's a long sentence. Lack of integration with local students is a common issue, both in academic and social situations. However, some groups of international students form bonds amongst themselves and provide academic, social, and emotional support to other group members. This strategy, referring to this entire previous sentence of example, is one way international students have overcome their lack of integration with local students and continue to pursue their educational goals. As you can see, there's no citation, which means this part is the writer's critical thinking, which is explaining the evidence in the previous sentence as per this giant stacked reference. Some students make friends with both local and other international students, and this can provide them with social support and facilitate their integration into their new society. I feel like there should actually be a citation here, but whatever. So as you can see, this helps demonstrate how things are connected. And so because it's a function word, like all of those academic bundles, it's overlooked a lot because it has no content. But it is highly important for that kind of inner cohesion of your paragraphs. So this works in a number of ways. One is actually clarifying what you're discussing, so using it with your noun. So this strategy, in other words, the strategy I've just introduced in the previous sentence, or this framework, this study, meaning my study and not someone else's. But normally how you would use it is with a verb. So using it to substitute an entire idea that you have previously introduced. Like I said, that idea is normally evidence or examples or your assertion, so your argument. So it normally follows those statements because this and then verb normally introduces justification. So it's normally used when you were explaining and justifying what was in the previous sentence. So that could mean that you are linking it back to the overall argument. So in other words, why did you provide an example? How does it prove your point? Or it's when you're clarifying and proving your assertion. So you're explaining why you think what you think or how you came to your conclusion. So that's why this is extremely important, and you're likely to see it more and more in passages that have a lot of critical thinking. So that is, back to the Padlet, our activity 2. So I have a picture for you. We have this cute little fox running around Dublin. We found out it was Dublin. I had to go looking for the picture with the reverse Google search. And we found out it's in Dublin. The fox was running around during the COVID lockdowns. Excuse me. In Grafton Street, which is, I've never seen it that bare. So it was very hard for me to work out where it was. Because I was like, it looks like the UK, but it's too clean to be London. So it could be further north, so closer to like Scotland. Ended up being in Ireland. So this is our picture for this week. Those of you still working on your bundles, feel free to keep going. That's fine. But those of you who are up to the next activity, I would like you to come up with a sentence or a couple, it's up to you, about this picture using this. I love it, Christina. Also, if you have a look at that article I linked, it has a picture of what Grafton Street normally looks like. And the fact that there was no people was part of why I couldn't recognize it. It's also probably why the fox is like, I'm going for a trip. Great work, everyone. So, just a reminder for next week, we'll be trying to do, like we did this week, both language feature week 10 and 11. That way we should be back on track just in time for your exam. And if you have any questions or would like me to have a look or some feedback on your writing, it also gives you the opportunity for that as well. But the next module, so the last 4, so the next 3 weeks, are looking at how to present your critical thinking effectively. So it's talking about how to present an argument, how to present your assertion, adding in your justification, all of that sort of stuff. So the next thing we'll be doing is that. So please remember that we'll be doing both week 10 and 11 next week. So it's sort of like what we did today. And then we'll be all caught up just in time for the end of the semester. So does anyone have any questions about today? Anything you're not clear about? No? All right. Well, as usual, if you do want me to have a look at your writing, would like some feedback on your writing, feel free to email me. I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, I shall see you all next Monday. Thanks, everyone. Bye.